an immigration attorney in Norwood, Massachusetts. Happy Monday. Let me know you can hear me okay. I am here today to discuss some updates with immigration law and to answer any questions that you have. I hope everyone had a great weekend. It was freezing cold here, so we weren't enjoying that, but we did catch up on some good shows on Hulu and Netflix. Decorated our Christmas tree, and we're getting ready for our holiday party here at the office, which will be soon. So I hope everyone is having a good morning, and I'm going to get started with the breaking news on Friday is DACA is back on. A federal judge in Brooklyn ordered that DACA has to be fully reinstated, which is so fantastic. And hi, Brianna, happy Monday. So I'm so happy about that. I have two dreamers who work for me, and so it's just really good to know that they don't have to worry. One of the great things here is that the DACA, as it's being reinstated, is going to grant status for 2 years instead of 1. So they don't have to worry about the program running out or anything like that. New applications are being accepted. You can file for travel documents again. So that's a big relief to a lot of people. It's predicted that there could be about 300,000 new applications for DACA. So yay. So I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube streaming today, as I do every Monday around noon. So send me some questions if you have any. If you think that you might be eligible for DACA, give my office a call, send me a message. Our phone number here is 781-461-0100. Some other news that we have is we had a new employee start today. Her name is Michelle. She's our new administrative assistant. So Michelle will be here answering the phones, getting your cases set up, and she'll be the first person that you communicate with. So we're really happy to have her aboard. She moved up here from North Carolina. And yeah, so that's all very exciting. Last week we had a big success. One of our clients he first came here from Brazil on a fiance visa and got his green card, which was only for 2 years because of how long they were married, just got his permanent green card, his 10-year green card. And he actually has an interview for his citizenship next month. So hopefully by the end of January, he will be a new US citizen. And yeah, so very exciting news there. Another item that I wanted to discuss that people are kind of confused about. So President Trump implemented some new rules about asylum, and one of the most horrible ones is making asylum seekers now wait for 365 days to file for a work permit. The way it had always been is that they wait for 150 days after they file their asylum application. So good news here is that there is a way to kind of get around this. So there's an organization called ASAP, which is Asylum Seekers Advocacy Project, and they are part of a class action lawsuit against this new policy. They're still accepting membership. I have a few clients who've joined as members. So if you're interested in learning more about how to join as a member, if you currently have an asylum application pending, and it's been less than 365 days that it's been pending, you can contact us and we can help you get set up for this ASAP membership. You can also just Google it, ASAP Asylum Seekers Advocacy Project. There's a case, the case I was mentioning, the class action is called Casa v. Wolf, and it's challenging this policy. So there was recently a decision in this case that if you're a part of this membership, then you are able to file for your asylum work permit after the 150 days. and you just pay an $85 biometric fee, proof of your membership in this class. So we filed a couple of these. We haven't gotten them approved yet because it's all very new, but I will keep you posted on that. And feel free to ask any questions about that. Send us a message if you think that that might apply to you. And I would recommend registering as soon as possible before they close membership enrollment, which I don't know if they are, and I don't know when. So this is a good opportunity to do that if you can. So I'm going to start with some questions that I'm receiving. Okay, the first one is, which family members can sponsor relatives for U.S. immigrant visas that will grant them permanent entry? Okay, so that's a really great question. So there's certain types of applications that only U.S. citizens can apply for their relatives. So in order to apply for your parent, you must be a U.S. citizen. In order to apply for your sibling, you must be a U.S. citizen. And then there's different cases where, so for example, if your spouse is a green card holder or a U.S. citizen, you can apply for your spouse. If you are applying for children in certain categories, it could be either a permanent resident or a U.S. citizen. And the processing times are slower for cases that are filed by permanent residents as opposed to U.S. citizens. So those are some of the examples. The immediate family members of U.S. citizens are the cases that there's no backlog. You don't need a priority date. It's just immediately available. So those are the easiest and fastest cases. The case of, say, a green card holder applying for their spouse usually takes about 2 years for the spouse to get their permanent residency. And then the cases for U.S. citizens applying for their siblings take the longest. Those take about 14 years. And yes, it actually is 14 years. Which brings me to a topic that I'm really excited about with the President-elect Biden. One of his plans, and who knows if it's going to go through, but I'm excited about it. So like I mentioned, all this the siblings petitions take forever. Some of these other petitions take several years. So his plan is to issue a temporary visa to the people who are waiting for their priority dates to become current so that the families can be reunited while they're waiting for their cases. So fingers crossed that that actually happens. The next question that I have is, if I have been granted a temporary work visa, can my spouse and or child come with me to the U.S.? So there's certain types of student visas and employment visas where your spouse or your children can be dependents on that case. For example, if you are here on an H-1B or an L-1, so H-1B is for a temporary worker, then you can bring your spouse or children on an H-3 or H-4 visa. So those are the visas for dependents. If you're here on an F-1, you can bring your family on dependent visas as well. The same with the L-1s and the O's. So yes, there is a way to bring your family if you're seeking a temporary employment visa. The next question that I have is, how do I extend my stay in the United States? So there's a couple of options. The easiest one, say, for example, you've come here on a tourist visa, but for some reason you need to stay longer. There is the I-539 application to extend or change your status. So this is the one that you would use to extend your tourist visa. Some reasons that might work are if you're here taking care of someone with medical issues, you yourself have medical issues, if you want to stay because you are looking at schools to apply for, and also there's some other things you can do. So say, for example, you come to the United States, you're here on your tourist visa, Or like with COVID, we extended a bunch of those for COVID because people can't get back into their countries. So that's a reasonable request. Um, if you're here and something happens in your country and you're afraid to go back, you can file for asylum. If you're here and you meet someone and you get married and you weren't planning this, it just happened, you can file a marriage petition. So there's a few different options. You can get in touch and we can set up a consultation and I can see if there's any way we can extend your stay. What are deportable offenses? So deportable offenses are different reasons that immigration would put you into deportation, or we call it now removal proceedings. And so say you're here and you commit a crime, there are certain types of crimes that are deportable offenses. For example, an aggravated felony. So this actually is interesting because an aggravated felony doesn't actually mean that it's a felony. There are certain misdemeanor crimes that would potentially be aggravated felonies. If you have a certain number of what they call crimes involving moral turpitude, which is a super archaic term, but there are certain offenses that would constitute a crime involving moral turpitude, like an assault and battery charge on a family member, could be a domestic violence crime, which is a different deportable offense, or there's just some other ones that would constitute crimes involving moral turpitude. There's also, so the domestic violence is a deportable offense. Drug trafficking, weapon trafficking, human trafficking, those are all deportable offenses. And there are certain fraud crimes that are deportable offenses. So those are examples of some deportable offenses. My next question is, what is naturalization? So naturalization is the process through which you can become a US citizen. To be eligible for naturalization, you have to have 5 years here with your green card. There is an exception. If you got your green card through marriage, then you only have to have your green card for 3 years before you can naturalize, but you still have to be married to the person that you got the green card through. And then for asylum seekers, once someone is granted asylum, they only have to wait for 4 years before 4 years with their green card before they can apply for naturalization. So the naturalization test isn't that difficult. The test has changed a little bit. It got a bit harder starting December 1st. Now, in order to pass the test, you have to answer 12 questions out of a potential of 128 correctly in order to pass the civics portion of the test. There's also an English portion of the test. And then you have to meet certain criteria about whether you've committed certain crimes, or if you've been in the United States for a long enough period of time, if you've paid your taxes, and so forth. So that's a little bit about the naturalization. What is the visa bulletin? So that's the next question. What is the visa bulletin? The visa bulletin is basically how I was talking about. If you do certain types of cases, there's a backlog. So when you file a case, there's something on it called a priority date. The priority date is the date that you filed your application. Now, this case is important for certain types of cases where you go online on the Department of State website and there's a part there called the Visa Bulletin, and it shows you these charts on there for the different types of visa categories, which are family-based or employment-based. And you look on that chart to see what the priority date is. So the priority date on the chart is the date that they're accepting applications, that date or before. So then you look at your receipt notice and see, okay, what's my priority date? Is my date before this date? Okay, yeah, I can file. Is my date after this date? Okay, I have to wait until that date for me to file my application. So the visa bulletin changes every month. And so you just have to keep looking at the bulletin every month to see where you are, and you can kind of guess how much longer it'll be. So that's the visa bulletin. The next question, what are the income requirements for a marriage visa? Great, thank you for the question. So for the marriage petition, and also for other cases where you're filing for a green card, you have to include something called an affidavit of support. The affidavit of support is the document that your sponsor fills out, the person who petitioned for you, so in the marriage case, it would be your spouse, about how much money they make every year, how big your household size is. So then what you need to show for that is that your income is 125% or more of the federal poverty guidelines. So I think for a household size of 2, it's like 24,000, about that. So if your spouse or your petitioner doesn't make enough money, you can use your assets to supplement to make up the difference. If you don't have assets and you don't make enough money, then you need a joint sponsor. And the joint sponsor can be anyone who is a US citizen or a green card holder who can be the co-sponsor. So for the affidavit of support, you have to get the tax returns and employment verification letter and so forth to just prove that you actually do have this income. The next question I have is, how long will my green card remain valid? Great question. So there's 2 types of green cards. There's a permanent green card and there's a conditional green card. The conditional green card is for situations where you get your green card through marriage, but you'd been married for less than 2 years. So that green card is only good for 2 years, and then you have to do a petition to remove the conditions on your green card. The permanent green card is good for 10 years, and you can renew it every 10 years without a problem. That's on a form called I-90, application to renew my green card. Okay, thank you for the question. The next question I have is, I received a deportation order. Is there anything I can do to avoid being deported? Well, we can appeal it depending on the circumstances. I love doing appeals. So reach out to me if you have any questions about that. In fact, I am talking to someone later today who has a case pending or wants me to do their appeal with the Board of Immigration Appeals. So you have to file your appeal within 30 days of receiving your deportation order. So it's really important that you get in touch as soon as possible so we can make that happen. And other options are motions to reopen the case, motions to reconsider. There are also circumstances where someone has a removal order and we can file something called a stay of removal, which basically means we can stop the removal for a period of time. And I have some clients who have, for example, I have these clients from Bosnia, and they've been here forever. And we have been able to stop the removal for many years because they have severe medical problems. So there are some circumstances where, for humanitarian reasons, we can stop the deportation. The next question I have is, I lost my green card, what should I do? So the same form I was talking about to renew your green card, you can renew and replace a green card on that. So you can file the I-90 form to replace your green card. Thank you for your question. Okay, hi Duarte. I have a question from Duarte. If you're on SSDI, can you still petition for your spouse even with a co-sponsor? Yes, you definitely can. So immigration, when considering whether somebody can get a green card, they're not really looking at your spouse's financial circumstances, they're looking at yours. So because there's this form that Trump implemented called the public charge form, and there's an analysis that has to be done about whether the immigrant is whether the immigrant is going to be a public charge, meaning relying on government assistance to get by in the future. So even if your spouse has some financial strains, it isn't going to be a death knell in your petition if you can show that you have the potential to support yourself, like if you have good education, if you have a good work history, um, if you're healthy, if you're an age, not super old. And yeah, so there's ways to get around that. And I have a lot of situations where the spouse has been laid off or has some sort of medical condition and cannot work. So the joint sponsor then becomes very important for the case. So yeah, that's one way to get around it. Okay. The next question is, when can I apply for citizenship with a fiance visa? Okay, great question. So the fiance visa works this way. Basically, you apply for the fiance visa and it goes through consular processing. So you file the fiance petition here in the US, then it gets transferred to the State Department, then it gets transferred to the US Embassy wherever your fiance is. They have the interview, they come into the United States, you have to get married within 90 days. And then when you get the green card through that, it's treated the same way as receiving your green card through marriage. So then you can apply for naturalization after 3 years instead of 5. All right, thank you for the question. Please let me know if you have any other questions. So we are working on, like I mentioned, that case today with the appeal. We have a case that we are doing pro bono right now. A woman came to our office and we realized that she was in a very bad domestic violence situation. So we're working on getting her a restraining order. We're working on getting her her green card because she is being abused by a US citizen. And we're teaming up with a family law attorney in town who's doing her divorce pro bono, which is fantastic. So we're trying to get everything taken care of. But that case has been a lot of work. And then we're just working on a lot of asylum cases. Okay, I have another question. What if my job ends? Do I have to leave the country? So it kind of depends on the situation. I think for H-1Bs, you can transfer to a new position. It really just kind of depends on the circumstances. And we might be able to change you to a new company or something. It's important to remember that there's these 3 and 10-year bars. So if you are run out of status and you're here for 180 days without status, then there's a consequence that you then are banned from coming to the United States for 3 years. If you overstay for 1 year, then you're banned for 10 years. So it's important that if you're unable to figure out your situation within those 180 days, that you do leave, go back to your country, and then try to come back in on another visa. Okay, thank you for the question. Any more questions, please let me know and send us a message. We're going to have a promotion that we're going to be posting, so I'll send more information about that soon. Let's try and get your applications in and done before the end of the month if possible. Give us a call, 781-461-0100. Send us a message. We also have WhatsApp, so you can send us a WhatsApp message. We are doing consultations on Zoom, on WhatsApp, over the phone, and in special circumstances in person. Hi, Moises. Let's see. Yes, to remove conditional resident conditions, payments must be sent together. Payment of $5.95 and payment of fingerprint. Yeah, so you can just put that on one check. made out to U.S. Department of Homeland Security. So the filing fee for that is $680 in total. I think that USCIS has a fee calculator on the website now, so that should be pretty helpful. Yep. Any other questions? Let me know. I will be back here on Wednesday, miércoles con Melanie in Spanish. So Wednesday around 4 o'clock, tune in if you want any questions answered in Spanish. Thank you for tuning in, and I will see you on Wednesday.